Yo, welcome back to another episode of Mailbag Monday by the Money Matters podcast. I'm your host, Jack. We are full staffed. We're going to skip the intros because nobody needs those. We've got a $63,000 Bitcoin and a presidential assassination attempt. I'm going to kick it off with Dollar Bill. Dad, what do you think about the markets, about Bitcoin, and about Trump getting a piece of his ear taken off?
Well, I mean, I always start out, I feel like I pretty much say the same thing. If you look across not only Bitcoin, I'm looking across the Dow year over year is up 16%. Gold year over year is up 23%. It was $1,949 on this date last year. It's now over 2,400. For real estate, I'm using the Case-Shiller index, although I think that is understating it. That's up 6.5%. So anyways, three different asset classes, three different supply demand fundamentals, right? Gold is an international hedge kind of market. The Dow, presumably reflects more domestic business conditions, and all showing strong double-digit gains. I think the story is dollar debasement. The one thing all those markets have in common, right, is they're all priced in dollars. That's the same 45 seconds I start with every week. But yeah, if it's priced in dollars, I'm trading it from the long side. I think that's been the trade, and I think the best expression of dollar debasement is going to be Bitcoin. Traditionally it's gold. Gold's got a lot of history, and believe me, I'm seeing the year-over-year gains that gold has. I know. There's a lot of overlap between Bitcoiners and gold bugs. Congratulations, way to go. I just think Bitcoin is the most better scarcity argument. After all, like we know, gold has, Google how much gold there is in the world. Google returns an answer of plus or minus, 22 million tons of it. We know exactly, Google how much Bitcoin there is. I know I say this all the time. There is 1,235,437 left. That is dollar-wise. I always find this interesting. Dollar-wise, there is 77 and change $billion of Bitcoin left. That is the price of an S&P 500 company, right? I mean, that is still I just think Bitcoin is too cheap anyways. And when you add in, right, the fact that we're seeing asset price inflation across the board, and throw in this an election year, and people are starting to shoot at the candidates, I don't see any reason why any monetary authority would exert any discipline. I think the markets are on our own this year. I don't think the Fed tightening. When was the last time the Fed tightened, right? And they started tripping SVB bank. With this type of political atmosphere in an election year, monetary authorities really do not want to insert themselves. So no, I think the market's on its own. The market wants to go higher. I know I say that more or less, but I see no reason not to continue trading from the long side.
I don't disagree.
Sounds too easy, right? And I know it's not like hey, you guys got a coding company, right? Well, take a boot camp class or two, write a few lines of code, and make a lot of money. I know it sounds too easy, but sometimes I do. I think this is one of those markets where the market's doing all the work for you.
But it wasn't last week. It was just down 23%. You still think it's easy what would you say to the folks that held through a 23% downturn?
That's a lot better than holding through the 80% down. No, Bitcoin is famous for tough bear markets. Right? 20,000 to 3,000. I would say, round number, I'm going to say that's closer to 85%, right? I think that, and I mean, even go back farther than that. The first real tough bear market we had, 1,100 down to $175. Those are 80% drawdowns. Yeah, no, I don't mean to trivialize it. If it were, like I said, it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it. I just think this is one of those markets, like I said, where you really can just kind of let the market do the work for you. I am not actively trading this, and I love trading. If this market, gets range bound, that's an easy way to if you got the experience and the time on your hands to sit in front of a screen, it's an easy way to, to make some money off of this. I just don't think that's necessary right now. Like I said, with double-digit gains across multiple asset classes, an election year, monetary authorities do not want to insert themselves. That would be an overtly political thing, right? Think about you got a couple of CPI numbers, maybe some inflation numbers before November, and you continue to get softening. And the Fed were to make a surprise, accommodative rate cut 60 days out from an election. All right, that puts the Dow at a new all-time high, and that's a clear help to the incumbents, right? People vote their pocketbook. So I think monetary authorities just really don't want to touch these things as you head into an election, and particularly an election that's this contentious. I think we're on our own. I think monetary policy is on hold. And, like I said, the market wants to go higher. And I don't think you're going to get any type of monetary discipline in this environment. And the fact that the politics is now getting, violent, that's another reason why I think monetary authorities are simply not going to exert any type of inflationary discipline into this market right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't disagree. I do think, though, and last time we talked to everyone, I think Bitcoin everyone was thinking it was on its way to 40K. So, oh boy, excuse me. I think this is just a good example of a lot of things. One, markets aren't easy. Getting long and getting paid is very difficult. And two is markets are uncertain. I think, one morning you wake up and everyone around you says it's going to 40K. The next morning you wake up and everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to 100K. And that was the difference of 7 days, I think. 7 days ago to this day, it was going to 40K. So that's why you got to have your thesis, build your conviction. And in order to make money, you got to have balls. You got to stick to your trade and stick to your gut. And so, yeah, the trade is dollar debasement. The trade is they're going to have to print. The trade is hard assets. So it's just a great example. It lasted about 10 days. It reminds me, I hate going on roller coasters. I'm just not a roller coaster guy. And whenever I'm going through a roller coaster drop, I just clench my stomach and close my eyes because it'll be over in 7 seconds. And I know it's not going to kill me. And if it does, nothing I can do about that anyway. So you just close your eyes, you clench, and then it's over. And that's kind of how this felt. It's like, it was about 7 days, but everyone is probably telling you you're an idiot. It's going to go to 40K. What are you talking about? Wait, hold on a second. It looks like Jerome Powell has this under control. And you just clench and you hold on for dear life, believe in yourself, and then boom, look at this. Now, Bitcoin's also like a long vol. Like I like calling it long vol. You're monetizing volatility. So coming off a market open of a president almost getting murdered, we're up 9%, 10% over the last 5 days.
A lot of doom and gloom going on. What do I have to say to the people who were holding Bitcoin down when it dipped to 55K? I don't do what I did. I was sitting on a boat in the middle of Lake Geneva, sipping a Corona, smash buying Bitcoin on strike because I think Bitcoin will be worth more than $55,000 someday. So I'm going to buy it at that price and make some money. And since then, I'm up, 15.5% on that trade? That's what I did. That'd be my advice. If you think Bitcoin will go up more than the current prices, buy some.
Yeah, how's that smashed DCA or the what do you got? No fee DCA? How's that going? Because you guys must be going gangbusters during that dip, or whenever we dip, right? Strike just gobbles up everybody's desire to buy the dip. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, Strike is great. We're doing all-time high. I mean, we launched Europe, we launched the UK, and we launched no-fee DCAs. So I don't think we've ever had more customers in the company's history, and I know for certain we've never done more volume in the company's history. So that's the thesis, is that Bitcoin, like our mantra internally at Strike, is better money. That's what, whether you're answering a support ticket, writing a line of code, designing a screen, you have better money in mind. That's our thesis, is Bitcoin is better money, plain and simple, and the world's going to need better money, logically, because it's the most important technology to a functioning society. And we serve it, and we try and serve it well and ethically and by principles. So yeah, Strike's great, and so am I. I mean, I just don't own dollars. I own Bitcoin, and I didn't even flinch on this one. But there's a lot of people that maybe this is their first time around. There's a lot of people I met personally over the years that is getting into Bitcoin just now, and seeing your net worth drop by 23% is not easy. So hopefully this is a good takeaway, because it's going to go down 23% again at some day, likely from a way higher number. That's usually how it goes. I've seen it go down 80% from 1,000, then I saw it go down 80% from 20,000, then I saw it go down 80% from 70,000, and it probably is going to go down 80% from 700,000. But good takeaways here, in my opinion. Okay, we got to talk about Trump. Whether you love him, you hate him, you got to talk about it, and its relationship to markets, finance, monetary policy, Bitcoin. This is the first Bitcoin election we've ever had. Trump is speaking at the Bitcoin conference, supposedly, still, although there was an incident. So I don't know who wants to pick this one up. I can pick on someone if you guys want, but what do you make of this contentious of a presidential election? You've got assassination attempts. You've got the guy who's the assassination attempts on the guy is the one that supports Bitcoin. You've got Powell came out and said he's going to be cutting rates probably. People are thinking rates could get cut dramatically starting September. What do we think?
You have thoughts. You guys have thoughts.
I will be glad to beat my universal acid thought experiment to death if you'd like. It is unsurprising that from the moment you read the white paper, it was a countdown till it works its way into politics on some level. I did not think it would pop up in El Salvador politics first, but I mean it's a great. It's easy to understand, right, how that could be used as a populist political tool. It is not a top-down financial innovation brought to you by the elites. It is, right, brought to you by the cypherpunk community. It is a pseudonymous ground up. You know, nobody went to Goldman Sachs and got it patented. Nobody used a Wall Street sales force to advertise it. It just kind of leaked. Leaked through Silk Road, right? I said then it started disrupting. It started disrupting the euro alignment, right? Where Cyprus banks starting to haircut depositors, and depositors were just fleeing via Bitcoin because you can't get out through capital controls. So I mean the unfolding has, while nobody can predict the specifics of, right, nobody predicted your Silk Roads, your El Salvador's, but it's unsurprising that it's going to affect everything eventually. And it's unsurprising to me that it is now a political issue. Why one party picks it up. I mean, I'm as close to a single issue voter on this as it gets. I dare anybody to name any material difference between Gore and Bush, right? I mean, we've been pretty much served up a homogenized choice over and over again. Bitcoin is one of the few things where a politician can make it, stand as different. I mean, that's a direct threat, right? Be your own bank is a direct threat to a financial industry, which certainly plays a large role in financing political campaigns. So no, it's unsurprising. I think Bitcoin is on the ballot, and that's I think that it was both predictable and inevitable, right?
It's so funny because every podcast I listen to, everybody says the same line, which is, if you had told me 10 years ago that the Bitcoin would be the subject of a presidential election, that we actually have one side being pro and another side being anti. I wouldn't have believed it. And I'm with everybody who says that. It's what amazes me is how, I mean, I voted for Biden last time because I didn't like Trump's policies. And boy, what a stupid administration. I mean, they have just like their heads up their asses this entire last 4 years. I'm absolutely shocked that they still do. And I mean, I tend to always vote Democratic, and not like I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. It's just as far as the whoever the candidates are, I just happen to be voting against the other guy. And in this case, nothing makes me more crazy than being a Bitcoiner who wants to change the world and believes so vehemently in the promise of Bitcoin for everyone. It's the most American possible thing. It embodies everything that we love about Western liberalism, and liberalism meaning philosophical and not political. And the Biden administration still has their heads up their asses. I mean, in every single, it's just amazing to me. So I'm not thrilled that I have to, we kind of get into it, Bill and I, every now and then. He's like, you have to vote for Trump. You have to vote for Trump. I'm like, well, we live in a blue state, so I'm not that worried about that part. That I have to, kind of go against some of my other principles, because I am a mostly single issue voter. But like I said, this, last time I was on the pod, as a woman, it kind of pisses me off that I have to like vote for someone who is so sexist and racist and homophobic and all that stuff, and wants to deport people I love, and just for Bitcoin. So again, if you think about it, Biden is actually worth discovering hasn't ever really been in charge. He's always just been an empty vessel who is kind of like a special interests have used him the way they wanted to. He farmed out the financial system to Elizabeth Warren. Hey, let's do what you want to do. Just, don't make us have to understand all of it. And she did whatever she wanted the last 4 years, and that's backfired for him. And the fact that they haven't come out and really said, okay, we'll be pro crypto now too, is kind of astounding. It does look like the SEC, Gary Gensler, might have been chastised a bit more. They keep losing. Anyway, sorry, there's a lot to be said about all this. I think Trump's going to win. I think I don't know if he'll keep his promises, but he probably will. It looks like he's about to announce his VP choice. And if it's JD Vance, he's a coiner, and that's good. Hopefully he'll get Vivek in his administration, who's pro Bitcoin. And I don't know, who else I would like that would be in his administration. Do you guys have any people? Because obviously Trump doesn't really care.
Well, I just refreshed the live odds of Trump's VP. So we're recording this. It is 1:43 p.m. here in Chicago on Monday, July 15th. He's supposedly going to announce his VP candidate or nominee today. And Robert Kennedy Jr. was added to the prediction markets 20 minutes ago.
What?
And it's now already at a 15% chance in rising, under the idea that Trump is going to try and unite the nation by having RFK Jr. as his vice president.
I mean, I'd vote. I would vote for them.
I
would vote for that for sure.
Wow. Prediction market. So the latest right now is JD Vance at 66%, Glenn Youngkin at 25%, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is just blitzed past 10%. He was added 20 minutes ago as I'm talking, and I think he's live trading right now at 15% and rising. Interesting.
Wow. That's really exciting. You guys are going to be at the Bitcoin conference next week, right?
Yeah.
You and Dylan, both Jack and Dylan.
Yeah, we'll be in Nashville.
I mean, that's going to be the most interesting. I can't even believe that you get to experience that. With Trump speaking, RFK speaking, Vivek is speaking. I can't remember other political figures who are there. It's just crazy. That's all I have to say.
I agree. I don't have much. I don't have many comments on the conference. I don't know much about what's going to happen, but yeah, interesting. Put it lightly. For the Money Matters podcast, I think we got to talk about, Dad. What does this do to a financial market? Is kind of my curiosity. Bitcoin opened up 10%. Is that because we're now done with Germany selling, and this is where it should have been priced before an unnatural seller needed to sell billions of dollars in the spot market? Or is Bitcoin telling us something and leading the rest of markets as it does? It's starting to price in a Trump presidency. It's starting to price in lower rates, all the above. What does chaos typically do to financial markets? If financial markets like chaos, do they not like chaos? How do central bankers react to chaos? Because I think if I'm certain of anything, the next 6 months are going to be chaotic. In which direction and how, I have no idea, but I think we're all pretty confident that this is a weird time, right?
Oh, yeah. No, like I said, monetary authorities do not want to insert themselves into political processes. I do not want to be the guy, right, that starts a bank run 60 days before a U.S. presidential election. I think monetary policy is on hold, and by on hold, I mean accommodative, right? There's too much insolvency risk. As you know, last time the Fed tried to tighten in response, right, to some inflationary pressures, they tripped a couple of banks. There is, I think, too much insolvency risk, too much recession risk, and just too much. And like I said, the political environment. If your monetary authorities do not want, don't want to play a role in that anyways, even in calm elections, but this, contested elections with, more violence on the way. Yeah, no, I think I do the same thing. Sorry if my inflation target is 3%, but for the next 6 weeks, it's going to be 4 or 5% because I'm just not going to mess with the insolvency risk right now. I just don't want to insert myself. The Fed does not want to insert itself into the political dialogue. Markets are in charge, not monetary authorities, and markets want to go higher. I mean, like I said, I'm looking at double-digit gains across multiple asset classes, and with no monetary discipline between now and election day, I think the trend is your friend right now, and that is up. I know, and like I said, there's best traders I know. I told you I participated in a study once. You take the guys that take, year over year, 70, 80, 90% of money out of these markets, and you take a top-down snapshot at any one time, and they are 55%, positioned correctly. How can you be on the right side of a market 5% more? Well, actually, the one study I participated in actually had that number at 53%. So a statistically insignificant difference, right, from tossing a coin. So how do people on the right side of a market, 3%, better than average, manage to take 90% out? It is really, I think, one of the strongest stats in speculation. What does that tell you? Spend more time managing your position and less time, right, analyzing. That's, like I said, the first advice, and I got this multiple times when I started my career: just walk into a pit and put a position up. Doesn't matter if it's treasury bills, soybeans, long, short, but you want to learn to trade. Not that. Now you'll learn that market, right? Now you'll learn who you got to listen to, what report you need to pay attention to, what analyst knows what he's talking about, because you got the rent on the line. That's that's really been the best advice.
And you did that in practice. Remember when you started that little trading group?
Yeah, I just say, go put some on.
Everybody was like, oh,
how does this work? I'm
touch
scared. What if it goes against me? I go, well, if it goes against you, then you won't make that mistake again, right? Find out why did it go against you, right? Why? Are you trading against the trend? Should you have waited for a better entry? I don't know, but you'll find that out, right? As soon as you get some a position on.
Did you see what Larry Fink said about Bitcoin today? Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Welcome to the party. Where's my
where's
my Bruce Willis? Welcome to the party, Larry. It gets not easy, not any easier than what you used to do for a living, but it's very volatile market. But you are welcome.
But then after that, Michael Dell quote tweeted the Larry Fink interview and said, Bitcoin is interesting. Isn't that what he said? Which everybody thinks is he's basically sending the signal out that he's going to put a huge trade, because we know he's liquidated some of his stock, right? Dell stock, billions of it.
I'm sure
Kinda
he's thinking
interesting.
the same. I'm sure he's thinking the same thing everybody with a lot of cash is thinking.
Yeah.
If the government could tax you and run, and run, and finance itself, they would do that. But as we all know, read my lips, no new taxes, and you are gone if you raise taxes. So the only way, if you raise taxes, you get voted out. But if you cut, you make a lot of expenditure cuts, you get voted out too. And so I think the only answer really is dollar debasement. I mean, they're going to tax you. They're just going to tax you by devaluing, right? By devaluing any cash holdings. That's the classic. That's the only two ways out of debt you can't pay, right? You can default on it, or you can pay it back with devalued dollars. And that's doesn't work for most countries, but when you print your own money, when you print your own currency, I think that's the only way out. And Satoshi has solved that problem for you. There's lots of ways to hide, right? Real estate, precious metals, artwork, that is really hard it's hard to debase. But Satoshi's just got clearly the better answer, and
Yeah.
that's where,
It was. I just want to put this observation on Saturday. Sorry, on 2 days ago. Yeah, Saturday when Trump got shot. We happened to be watching the news and right when it was happening, and also we always have a chart open, and right when he got shot and then stood up, the Bitcoin price went shot up, and I was like, look at this, just right at that minute. Look at that, and obviously the market's going, okay, that he just basically is going to win. There's just he survived that. He got up, he went like that. And, Bitcoin is going to win too, because
that is interesting though, that the markets are using Bitcoin really as a proxy for opinion polls, right? I mean, it is basically really a Trump opinion poll it has about, a real tight correlation to the Bitcoin price when the shooting started.
It was crazy.
Well, I think it's more about free markets. There's nowhere to express that opinion anywhere else. Bitcoin's the only free market in the world. And a free market, in my opinion, is necessary and paramount to functioning society, humans being able to coordinate, being able to channel their time and energy and exchange it properly and price things. And so, yeah, Bitcoin being the only free market in the world has time and time again been very valuable and vital almost.
It's Saturday, regular markets aren't open on Saturdays. So
it happens all the time. It's Saturday. It doesn't have a central bank. It doesn't have rates. It doesn't have bailouts. And so it's pure humanity. That's what you want. That's what everyone seeks out. It's actually unnatural when people are like, oh, it's volatile. Volatility is natural. Entropy is natural. What's unnatural is when every week you have to cut your grass, right? Like the grass, there's entropy in the universe. The grass naturally grows. What's unnatural is a perfect looking lawn, right? So it's unnatural for a central bank to make markets look perfect. They're not. There's naturally entropy in the universe. And so people are going to seek out the purest form of humanity and the universe and the world. And so, yeah, it is interesting. It's I want to express the fact that I saw this guy with blood on his face get up and fist pump with a flag behind his face. I want to be long that. Yeah, Bitcoin's open. Nothing else is. The current American financial system won't let you express your time and energy in any way on Saturday. If money is your time and energy in an abstracted form, you are physically not allowed to express it on Saturday afternoon, except, Satoshi's version.
Yeah, I think there's a couple interesting things in lieu of this event. One being that in a successful assassination attempt, in general, reaction to that news is driven by uncertainty and fear. And so you would expect to see a sell-off of things because people are just, hold on, I don't know, this is going left, right, up, or down. But I do know that this feels awful. This doesn't feel good. And so I'm gonna sell it all off. An assassination attempt kind of has a different ring to it, right? Like there was an incredible amount of certainty and strength displayed by that, fist that he put up. Whether, whatever side of the aisle you're on, you simply can't deny that the way that evoked emotion. And because at the end of the day, as a human being who was shot in the fucking face, who instead of retreating, ducking down, whatever, told his security team responsible for shuffling him away to give him a second just so that he could let people know that he was fine, it's fine. And the words that he kept reiterating were fight, which is like, dude, that could be a garbage guy, the fucking postman, an ex-president, my mom, whoever that was. You look at that and you're like, wow, that is a extremely strong display of human will, human perseverance. Now, the polls, and whether or not you believe in the integrity of the polls, they are a metric that you can follow. And so the polls had Hillary Clinton winning by a landslide. Not only did she not win by a landslide, she didn't win at all. So, do what you want with that data. But the polls, interestingly enough, only have Trump ahead by I think 1 point in one major poll, and then 2 points in the other two major polls. And there's a ton of, right, like data is super interesting, and there's a ton of confounding variables. Are Democrats more likely to participate in polls and Republicans more likely to actually participate in the thing that matters? Because at the end of the day, polls are worth nothing. But directionally, it does seem like this is still close, which I feel like somewhere in there is some sort of disconnect, because it feels like the people that I talk to and the people that I interface with, and again, my reach is extremely small. I'm only one human being, but every time my echo chambers are screaming, "Oh, this is over. It's a landslide. Joe Biden might as well pack it all up." The polls tell a different story, which I think is at the very least just interesting and not often talked about or represented, again, in the echo chambers that I exist in.
I don't believe those polls. I
Go to gambling sites.
Here's Polymarket. Polymarket gambling site has Trump at 71% and Biden at 18% as far as winning the presidential election.
Wow.
And I think Predicted, which is a similar prediction market, also has that. And it's amazing to see that difference between what you're talking about, which is the polls that you'll see on CNN or even Fox. I don't know about Fox. But CNN or MSNBC that are neck and neck. And I'm like,
yeah,
are they
the three major polls are CBS, Fox, and NBC. Fox obviously representing the other side of the aisle, but still similar, margins of error, if you will. One to 2 points, can be a rounding error. But that is incredibly interesting. So it seems like the people who actually want to put money where their mouth is and not say, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do," like check a box and move on to YouTube and watch an episode of the Kardashians or whatever the fuck. It seems like the people who actually are putting their money where their mouth is seem to represent a different sentiment than the people that can just speak without any consequence.
Right.
That's super interesting.
Lying. Right? I mean, we always have looked at the prediction markets to get a little bit more accurate.
Well, it's been going on for years.
Yeah, well,
prediction markets have been out predicting polling data, and there's lots of reasons for that. I don't know if you ask the guy's polling data, is he in front of his wife? He might not want to express his opinion, but or if he's in front of other, I don't know, maybe you just don't want to be on record saying I'm in favor of them. Well, so you're sexist or you're a racist. You know what? Of course I'm voting for the minority. Voted for Barack Obama. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, maybe I am, but I know that was maybe a more palatable thing to say in public to a pollster. That could, I don't know, but you're right. I mean, polling data versus gambling data. The money sites have been much more predictive.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm always a fan of following the money because it's real. Opinions are great, but they're not backed by like any form or a form of consequence. Outside of, I don't know, a few people at Twitter might shake their fist at you or something if you care about that stuff. But money's backed by consequence, especially prediction markets. If you lose that prediction, you lose that money. So yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that there's such a wide discrepancy, though, is fascinating.
I don't think it's that interesting. There's a huge discrepancy between the CPI and the price of my groceries last night.
Very true.
One is real time and energy, and the other is not.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the world has mispriced a lot of the future. In my opinion, I've said I think Bitcoin's going to be between $250K to $1 million in the near term, and it's 63K right now. So that's wildly mispriced, in my opinion. So I don't know. I do think though that we talk about all the time. When you've got deficits this big and inflation and mismanagement of monetary policy, at what point do you get enough civil unrest where there's any real substantial change? And an extreme example of that's in Argentina, where they elected a guy that campaigned on, I'm going to make the next few years of our lives fucking hell because I'm going to abolish everything that they've built before us, and it's going to be hard, and we're going to start from scratch. But it'll be better than getting scammed. And they elected that guy. They elected Milei. If anyone in the U.S. were to campaign on your Social Security checks are gone, your gas price switches are gone, inflation's going to run hot, but I got to reset this thing, they wouldn't beat Trump. Of course they wouldn't, right? So we're not at Argentina levels of civil unrest. But I was going to ask Dylan, as a 30-year-old millennial, I can feel the civil unrest that's more, I'm trying to find a way to articulate it. It's more like, wait a second, hard work, morals, ethics, principles, truth matter. It's not about left or right or anything like that. That's not in support of Trump necessarily. But, the people my age are more like, hold on a second. We can't trust any of these people. We can't trust any of this stuff. We're 30 now going on 40, and no one's made progress towards home ownership. No one's getting more groceries. No one owns more cars. No one's getting a big enough raise. Everyone's stressed out. And I mean, Chicago's becoming unaffordable for a lot of people I know. And it was plenty affordable 2, 3, 4 years ago when they signed their lease. So I find that kind of interesting. Like, I think that the future is like very mispriced. I think natural human tendencies and psychology and stuff is free markets, work ethic, time, energy, principles, truth, morals. And I think that puts Bitcoin at, a $10 trillion asset class. And I think that puts checks and balances on monetary policy. I don't know how much more the public is going to put up with some of this stuff. I actually was telling Dylan and I were on a boat in the middle of the lake on Saturday here in Chicago. And I looked at him, and as the assassination attempt went off, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is crazy how that happened. Whatever your opinion, your political beliefs, and people are debating. And I sat there for a second. I was looking at the Chicago skyline. And I said, were we an inch away from a civil war? Like, if that did pierce his brain, would I be in the middle of the lake as a civil war erupted? Maybe. Maybe not. But my point is maybe, because there's a lot of people that are, whether you're a Trump fan or not, can we get a fair election? Can you tell me what the real data is? Can you tell me how you're actually going to pay the debt off and not put a bullet through his head? Whether he wins or not, I've told you guys I've never voted. So this isn't a casting vote towards either side. But that's kind of like the Civil War, I think, is like, this guy's, whether the polls are right or wrong, he's leading. And if there was a bullet through his head, I feel like there's enough civil unrest where no one would have taken a mistakes happen. Secret Service tried their best. I think people would have erupted and
I
been like,
think you're right. I think if he loses the election in November, which looks highly unlikely, but you never know who's going to replace Biden. I think if Trump, he's already
and I've
election results so that no one trusts them. So yes, that would be. But if Biden loses and Trump wins, then there wouldn't. I just don't see the left exploding.
right. And I think, we talk about Bitcoin being the best expression of currency debasement, but, I almost see Bitcoin as the best expression of free market. I see Bitcoin as the best expression of truth. I see Bitcoin as the best expression of ethics and principles. So let's say I'm 30 years old, I'm in Chicago, I'm in the lake, and I'm nor left nor right, I'm nor top nor down. I believe in hard work. I believe in honesty. I believe in loyalty. I believe in truth. I believe in principles. I believe in, if someone is on the ground, being the first one to run over and help them up, right? I believe in fair and free opportunity. That's what I believe in. How do I express that? That's kind of like how I see Bitcoin, honestly. It's like more than just currency debasement. It'll go up because currency debasement, because the dollar is going to go down. But I think it's just very mispriced. Like, I'm trying to articulate the energy in millennials, of the younger generation, of like, how can we express that, like, the lives we want to lead are about loyalty, truth, principle, morals, ethics, hard work. Like, if you work really hard and you go to college and you pass all your classes and you do right by your boss and you're a good friend, you should have an okay life. You shouldn't need to work 2 jobs, right? You shouldn't need to eat McDonald's instead of high quality grass-fed meat products, right? It's like, how is that expressed? I think Bitcoin's just wildly mispriced because it's the best expression of like pure humanity and the highest form of human life and liberty and stuff. I don't know. Interesting. I'm curious what Dylan thinks, because we were on the boat and I was like, holy shit. Like, we could have got off this boat and like a building in Chicago would have been on fire if they put a bullet through the guy's head that's saying, I don't mind Bitcoin. I don't mind not bombing people all the time. And I know he doesn't have perfect opinions on all the things, but if they put a bullet through that guy's head, at this point, I think there's enough civil unrest where it could have been buildings on fire.
I think there would have been an unprecedented amount of civil unrest for how long I've been alive. I don't think we would have seen anything like that in our lifetimes as a reference point to say, okay, we've seen this before, we know it's going to happen. The other thing that I think is pertinent to the situation is typically in a time like that, you would need like a strong unifying voice. And I don't know if anyone saw like Biden's comments on what happened, but they're extremely weak, like everything else he says, And I think, to me, I find it like funny and things like that. I don't really care. And to some extent, I agree with, the guy can't speak well, but like, has he been like the worst president that I've ever seen? Not really. I don't know. I mean, I can't point to a thing that he's done where I'm like, this guy's the worst person ever. So I don't know. Like he runs or he campaigns on the let my work speak for itself. I'm clearly not good at speaking. But yeah, there would have been an unprecedented amount of civil unrest. Do I think there would have been like a civil war? Like, no. And I'm not even sure what that would look like from non like colloquial sense. But would civil unrest reach?
If there's more, count how to count the votes disruption, are we finally going to get blockchain voting? Because last time everyone, gosh, I wish there was an immutable, trustworthy way that we could count these votes. Yeah,
I mean,
there is.
voting on the blockchain has been we've been talking about it
Close,
since
yeah.
we've been in Bitcoin.
But now things are getting violent. You would really want a trustworthy result this time. I don't know why. Maybe that'll finally help us get.
No, that's a lot of the blockchain fixes this. I think unfortunately Bitcoin can't help us with that. But
and not only that, the election's in what 3.5 months.
Yeah, it's 2
I
weeks.
haven't heard of a new solution unless you guys have. But
no, we have a really good friend, Brett Morrison. Shout out Brett. And he's working on something called True Vote, which is voting on the blockchain. But I just think the problem is identification and registration, all this kind of stuff. It's proving you are who you are before it even gets on the blockchain.
Well, if you can't prove through identification that you are who you are, then the voting is corrupt anyway. Right?
Exactly.
No,
exactly. So once they can figure out these decentralized IDs, or we can get, we'll all have our Bolt 12, Lightning addresses or something. I don't know. Whatever people are working on in cryptographic signage and in terms of logging in places and being able to prove yourself with a private key. That's all the future for sure, but obviously it's not happening anytime soon. There's going to be doubt about these elections no matter what. And it's funny, this is a kind of a fourth turning stuff, right? I mean, so much. My brother was texting me this morning. He's like, well, looks like we're getting Trump, but it's good for Bitcoin. And he said, but what a shit show that this world has become. And it does feel, I was like,
and I want to bring it back to Bitcoin. My point is like, how is that expressed? Like, my point is there's enough civil unrest in America and the world, in my opinion. That's what Larry Fink was saying today. He kind of mumbled and rambled. I think Larry Fink, it's more about the messenger than the message. Like, all I know, I watched it like 4 times, and all I know is Larry Fink supports Bitcoin. But if you say, really, what'd he say? I don't remember. He was just mumbling over himself. He's like, I had an opinion and it changed, and it's digital and it's go like gold. Like, all right, dude, you got to watch more Sailor interviews. But
one thing I will say, he said that stuck out is Bitcoin fits a world that is scary, and the world is scary right now.
Where you stole my punchline, Cookie. That's where I was going. Is he was saying, making the point that I'm making, is he said it is a natural expression of fear of civil unrest. I think that's what but he's such a captured actor that he can't actually say that. But how do you have like civil unrest and a desire for truth and equality and equal opportunity and property rights? Like, how do you have a desire for property rights again expressed when you see your government sanction Russia or something like that, right? Like, I think Bitcoin's mispriced in that way, where the civil unrest has to be somewhere. And to make the example in an extreme, what am I going to like express that desire and these emotions in NVIDIA? Like, no, of course not. What am I going to buy Facebook stock because I feel like I need to express American ideals and get myself back to, being proud and hardworking and honest and truthful? I'm going to buy Zuckerberg's equity stock? No. So I think, I do think the phrase, the house on the hill, like the dream house on the hill that everyone looks up to and aspires to have someday. I think that was always America for a long time. And I don't know if it is anymore. And I'd make the argument that Bitcoin is becoming the house on the hill. Like, back in the day, America is like, oh, I would love to migrate to America and have equal opportunity and a chance at the American dream, right? Like, I want equal rights, equal opportunity, freedom, justice, liberty. That's what people, and you have the Statue of Liberty, and people want to leave their situation and migrate towards the place with hope. And I don't know if that's what America is right now to the rest of the world. Surely it's better than other places in the world. But I would make the argument that maybe Bitcoin is becoming the house on the hill, the digital house on the hill, where you want to migrate there because it has property rights. It has equality, freedom of speech, liberty, justice for every participant, right? It's fair, ungovernable. So I don't know. food for thought. I think there's a lot of emotion that hasn't been properly channeled and expressed yet. I still could see Bitcoin tapping $1 million in the next 18 months. I think it's the most natural way to express all the things that you want out of humans, like natural liberty, free markets. So we'll see. I think Bitcoin's the best long vol play you have. If you want to be long chaos, you buy Bitcoin.
We got a, go ahead.
Trump just announced it's JD Vance is going to be his running mate. And
Is that a market mover? I don't know one way or the other.
he's a Bitcoiner. That's what I've heard.
Really?
So you got to think about, Bill always says, look, Trump doesn't want to really run the country. He just wants, to be on stage and have rallies and have everybody love him. He's going to go play golf. So someone else, his administration's going to run and if he's got, or if he's old, right? So he's also showing signs of dementia. So if he can't serve his entire term with a full mind, or whatever, JD Vance is a coiner, could continue the pro Bitcoin thing. So anyway, I'm surprised the market isn't going up on that news, but it's kind of interesting. But Jack, back to your point, that something as more like as philosophically significant as Bitcoin is sort of the shining, I don't know which metaphor you're using on the house on the hill, but the idea that the American dream is no longer the inspiration for the entire world. And,
nor should it be like a physical land either. America, the ideals were like, let's build a sovereign nation that is liberty and justice for all, freedom of speech, equal opportunity, equal rights, forward thinking, technological, democratic, right? It's leader of the free world. And I think now we live in the digital age, we live in cyberspace. And I think Bitcoin is that place that you want to migrate to. Like, if you have problems in your life, I think you migrate to Bitcoin, in my opinion. So like, if you want to express a desire for free markets and hope and equal opportunity and like all of the things, then you migrate to Bitcoin and you migrate your time and energy into Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin is like this set of ideals in the house on the hill that everyone aspires to achieve. Now, the funny thing is, you don't have to like cross borders and evade police to get there. You just download Strike, but it's a very accessible house on the hill. But that's what I think. And I think people will find themselves looking for ways to express all of these emotions and the civil unrest and the debasement. And I think that they'll find themselves in Bitcoin. Because like I said, sometimes when I want to challenge my own intuitions, I'll think, well, what would another option be? Like, are you going to express yourself, like I said, Facebook stock, express yourself in Google stock? No. So it's kind of, where do you put your time and energy and express the desire to be free and equal with strong property rights and unforgeable monetary policy, not an equity, not a metal, not the US anymore, which is the most important point. This cycle is all about the death of the bond market, of US treasuries. Every 60-40 portfolio going like, wait a second, who told me again that 60-40 is the way to manage assets?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the best idea ever? Are we sure it shouldn't be 40-40-20, which would send Bitcoin to $1 million easily? Anyway.
Stock markets, financial markets seem to be fine with JD Vance.
Yeah. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Dow's have a strong day.
Yeah, Balaji, who I was just thinking, because you're basically, we should get him on the pod, because his whole formulation of the network state, the internet is the new true state, replacing nation states. And I would like to say that my pinned tweet from 2014, I was responding to Andreas and the Antonopoulos at the time, where he had said something like, no one knows what's next for cryptocurrencies because we've never done this before. And mine was that the arc of history is long, but it bends towards decentralization. And that seems to be, and the reason I put it that way is because obviously it's riffing on Martin Luther King Jr., saying the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And to me, decentralization is sort of equivalent to justice, to global justice and human justice. It's a fair, yeah, sure, centralized entities get things done in, well, I can't say more efficiently. They don't. They might sometimes are easier depending on the circumstance, and the context, but decentralization is fairer and more democratic and more human oriented. And if we are moving in that direction, I applaud it. It's going to be really messy on the way there.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I'm just seeing all the JD Vance stuff.
Yeah. People, my Twitter feed's X feed is very happy about him.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like he's a lot younger. It looks like Trump is very pro-tech, pro, Silicon Valley, pro Bitcoin, which is interesting. It's good for me, tell you that much. But
Yes, excellent. And RFK just got approved for Secret Service protection at the same time.
There we go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Okay. Well, this was a phenomenal episode, I think. Also the whole get long, get paid kind of ties into all of this of Bitcoin wins. You can place your vote and express yourself through Bitcoin. Like that, all the civil unrest stuff. I actually found myself, I don't know. I was just on a boat with a bunch of people that sucks. Like inflation's really hitting people I know hard. And,
Hard to imagine anyone that is not long Bitcoin. I don't think anybody can get stuck in an elevator with you without buying $100 of Bitcoin before they get out.
That's why I think it's mispriced. I think the world is like, okay, I understand it. It's clearly too big to fail. Larry thinks like, yep, I was wrong. And it's like, okay, hold on a second. So if everyone has civil unrest, everyone is dealing with currency debasement, everyone wants free markets, everyone wants truth, everyone wants property rights, then why are we at 63K? And you realize well, this isn't the markets aren't reflecting right now what I think. That's my point. I think you're right. I think in about 6 to 12 months, all these people will have Bitcoin.
Isn't it funny? When you hear these people that say, whatever, I discarded it. Of course, I'd heard about it. I discarded it, and then I finally had the time to study it. It was during the pandemic, we had several Larry Fink moments that, I finally I had my desk cleared, nothing else to do. So I had a chance. I know. And you wonder, I had a chance to study it, and you wonder, what do people mean study it? Just read the white paper. It's the most well-written document. And if you want to study it, there's references, right? There's paragraphs of links where you can drill down. But I mean, that is the best executive summary. And I mean, that's a 20-minute read, right? And it's that's what always kills me. I had a 3-day weekend, so I studied it. You can read the white paper on the L on your way to work and have a pretty good grasp and understanding of it, right?
You're smarter than a lot of people.
Read it again. It is crisp, and like I said, if there is any gaps in your understanding, it's linked. Everything is supported and linked.
Mm-hmm.
No, anyways, I know, but or read one of your books.
I didn't remember. I just edited books and write it.
Either that or buy $10 worth of it and let me know what it's worth next year. And then I think you'll probably get the entire picture of what we're talking about every single week.
I'm excited. This is a really fun time to meet every week and see what's going on. I think the next few months are going to be crazy. Jack, you don't like roller coasters, but
yeah, that's a good point. And maybe where we end it, that we'll be back on Monday next week, same time. and I'll leave the audience with this. They almost assassinated a president. They, as if I know who, I don't know, some 20-year-old kid, supposedly. Hard to believe, but I guess that's the claim. Thankfully, they cannot try and assassinate Satoshi Nakamoto, the leader of Bitcoin. They can try and kill the leader of the United States. They cannot try and kill the leader of Bitcoin. So I'll leave everyone with that. I will not lose sleep over my president being assassinated, the great Satoshi, my president, my king. All right. With that, I will see everyone. Well, I
Good
won't
job.
see any of you. I'll talk
It's
to you.
all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll read the comments, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Peace.